Hey everyone, I'm Ari Goldstein. I'm the head of growth and RevOps at Sightline. I'm very excited to be talking with you all today. And today I'm going to go over how RevOps can empower human conversations to close revenue. What is Sightline? Sightline is a construction tech company that focuses on helping commercial subcontractors build projects by automating manual workflows. Selling into construction is a complicated vertical. Construction itself is a very tech laggard industry. I'd say a lot of people in construction see tech as a potential problem, not necessarily as a solution for the pain that they're having as an organization. It's a really large market. Our TAM is about 745,000 accounts. Construction as a whole loves to work in spreadsheets, which is one of our big competitors, and they're very resistant to traditional acquisition channels. So paid ads aren't very effective for us. So we have to kind of find alternative ways of acquiring customers. It's a very personable business, and people really like to do business on the phone as opposed to kind of having a traditional buyer's journey online and filling out forms and doing basically their due diligence through Google. So knowing that construction is a difficult industry, I kind of looked at the problems that we had acquiring customers and realized this was a really good opportunity for RevOps to do a lot of magic behind the scenes to help grow the business and create meaningful conversations that lead to business for the sales team. There's kind of four things that I looked at that I wanted to focus on. I wanted to automate as much as possible. We're working through a really large market, and we don't really have too much time for admin work or large back-end workflows. We're a Series A startup, so there's a lot to do, and the admin stuff can just slow us down. So automation was super important. I wanted to make humans really the end point of all of my workflows. Traditionally in B2B SaaS, really the end point for workflows for me, as far as lead gen goes, would be a LinkedIn audience or a Google display audience, or some sort of email campaign. But what I really wanted to do at Sightline was to make sure that it was actually a human at the end of that workflow, someone that could call someone on the phone and book a meeting and have a meaningful conversation. Account prioritization is difficult. Since our TAM is so large, it's difficult for us to kind of create our target account list. So we kind of have to take it as it comes. There's a good amount of manual work that goes into kind of prioritizing accounts, but I thought that would be a really good opportunity for RevOps to kind of help and save some time by automating account prioritization as it comes in. And then, the final one is I want to provide our sales reps with everything that they need to have a meaningful conversation so they can have more of them and so they can be more effective. Through this strategy, within my first year, we were able to increase booked meetings by 790%, which was a huge step up for us and attributed to quite a bit of revenue. And today I'm going to walk through two workflows that really help facilitate that growth, that I think anyone can kind of mirror and follow at their own organization. So the first workflow that I want to talk about is our conference workflow. Conferences, when I first started at Sightline, were our biggest lead gen channel. We went to a lot of conferences before I joined Sightline, and when I joined, we decided to double down what was what was working, and that was conferences. So this year we went to 55 conferences, and I saw it as a big opportunity to help out and make these conferences more effective, and drive more revenue for the business. So how this worked was I wanted to automate everything. There's a lot of manual data entry with conferences, a lot of uploading into Salesforce, a lot of stuff on spreadsheets. It really was kind of this difficult workflow that took a lot of my time. So that was the first step. How can I make each conference, how can I make all the ops work for that conference go quicker, just so I'm not really the bottleneck and we can go to as many conferences as possible. The next step was to get as many notes in front of sales reps as possible in an automated fashion. So we have, a lot of sales reps that like to take really detailed notes. And I want to make sure that those are right in front of our reps when they're on the phones having conversations, instead of buried in some sort of spreadsheet somewhere that ultimately would probably end up getting lost. And then the third piece is, I need to track ROI from these conferences. So I want to make sure that all of the KPIs that we look for in our conferences are tracked. We look for total MQLs, meetings booked from those MQLs, SQOs which for Sightline is really opportunities accepted into an A's pipeline, and then closed won revenue. So this is the workflow that I built out. It starts with Salesforce campaign creation. So we use Salesforce for pretty much everything here at Sightline, and kind of makes sense that this workflow starts off within Salesforce itself. So it's pretty traditional, just normal campaign setup. Fill out the required fields, and you just hit save. And then what that will do is send a request straight to Webflow, which is our CMS, and it's going to automatically generate a lead form that our reps use at the conference booth on the floor. And this is what that lead form looks like. So we do a Yeti cooler raffle. It's pretty good for us. People in our industry seem to like Yeti coolers. So this is the raffle that we use. We set it up at our booth, and as people come and have conversations, they enter this raffle, and they automatically get added as a lead into our system. But this is kind of where the magic happens. So once a form fill happens, on this form, we usually put like an iPad or a laptop at the booth so people can enter in. It's going to then send that form fill over to a Google Sheet, which a rep will, have a laptop right in front of them. So as people fill out the forms, they can then monitor the Google Sheet in real time. People's contact information comes through as they fill out the form, and then, you can just go crazy and write as many notes as you possibly can, to give context to the SDRs that are going to be reaching out and trying to book the meeting. As you can see, we do incentivize our reps to book meetings on the conference floor. So they will book meetings, and they'll usually use a tool called RevenueHero to book those meetings, which I'll talk about later on in the workflow. But if the meeting isn't booked directly on the floor, they'll write their notes, and then that's going to send that data straight to our marketing automation platform, which is going to then enroll that contact into a Salesforce campaign, the one that we just set up. It's going to add the notes to the MQL, and it's going to automatically assign an SDR. And this is kind of what the end product looks like. So this is an MQL. We use opportunities to track our MQLs. And as you can see here, we have our conference campaign attribution, deal source. We have the notes that were taken right on the conference floor. And then we have all of our meeting booking information that gets sent over from RevenueHero when a meeting gets booked. Because, we book most of our meetings over the phone, a rep can make their cold calls. They look at their MQL opportunity, and they can just pick up where whoever was working the conference left off, and they can read the notes and have complete context as to why they're reaching out and any sort of intel we picked up on the conference floor. The next step is booking the actual meeting itself. So, we like to continue conversations that are already existing. If we've had previous sales cycles with prospects, we want those conversations to continue. And that's what we use RevenueHero for. So RevenueHero is our booking meeting tool. Our SDRs use it to hand off meetings to our AEs. And what it allows them to do is just book a meeting without really even thinking about it. So we set up all of these rules in RevenueHero to scan our Salesforce database and pick up if a conversation or a previous sales cycle has actually happened with that prospect. And if so, it's going to book the meeting with the AE that conversation happened with. So without thinking, SDRs can just, dial. If they get a live one on the phone, open up RevenueHero, and just know that the AE that gets assigned to that meeting is the AE that should have that meeting. If it can't find existing ownership, then it will round robin and evenly distribute it to our AE team. And it then logs all of that data back into Salesforce. So meetings have always been tough for us to kind of report on because there was a lot of manual data that needed to get entered into Salesforce, and reps just sometimes wouldn't do it. So RevenueHero allows us to have all of that be automated. And what that ends up looking like is a performance dashboard like this. Really, all I did was create a campaign. The event happens. People enter in their information on our landing page. It gets routed to the SDR. SDR books a meeting, and then the conference performance metrics just populate on this dashboard. So we can see how many MQLs we got, how many meetings we booked, how many ops got put into pipeline, and ultimately how many deals got closed off of each event. So we can decide if we want to go back next year. The next workflow is an intent and AI workflow. We've struggled to really leverage intent data because intent, for the most part, has been based around account intent. And because our audience doesn't necessarily respond very well to paid ad campaigns and LinkedIn campaigns, we had to kind of get creative with how we leveraged intent. And we finally found out, a workflow that works really well for us. So how we view intent is a couple of things. So we de-anonymize our website traffic. So there's some cool tools out there now that will allow you to actually see the prospects that are visiting your website, not just account spikes, but actual contacts. We identify in-market contacts, kind of using actually the same tool. But what it allows us to do is get contact level intent. So again, instead of account-wide intent spikes, we can actually narrow down to the exact person that's actually exhibiting intent. We monitor the market for relevant sales signals. Sales signals that are important to us are really job postings. If a company has an open, job posting for a billing admin or an AR person, that's a big indicator of pain. And in order for all of this to work, we need to make sure that we surface all this data to our sales team in an actionable way, so that they can, reach out and actually book some meetings and close some revenue off of all of these insights. So to facilitate that, we automated our SDR research, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like. So we're using a tool called, actually two tools, Super Signal and Vector. We use Vector to identify our anonymous web traffic, and we also use them for person level intent data. And we use Super Signal to find all of our job postings and sales signals. We then bring that data into Clay and automatically enrich, qualify, and score accounts. We'll filter out all the accounts that aren't in our ICP. They'll go to the trash, and then everything else will move on. If we find accounts that are in our ICP displaying intent, then we will enrich that contact and we will generate personalized, outreach through AI, and then we will kind of prioritize them. So depending on how the accounts look, they'll either go to an SDR for manual outreach, or they'll be enrolled in a marketing-owned email sequence. Let me kind of show you what that looks like. So here's Super Signal. I set up the job posting triggers that I want, and then that will start providing data to this workflow. The next is Vector. So here's Vector de-anonymizing our anonymous traffic, which is really cool. And I think it's actually free. I think they offer unlimited identifications for free, which is pretty cool. And then they also allow you to set up intent targets at the person level. So just like how you guys are used to seeing intent, you select the category, and then you'll start, seeing contacts that are displaying that intent. And let me show you what that looks like. So here's an MQL that gets routed to an SDR that's displaying intent. So you'll see the SDR gets assigned, and then in the marketing comments, I want to facilitate the best conversation so that this SDR has the best chance to actually book this meeting when they reach out. In the comments, you'll see, here's the context. This is the intent. They viewed 5 pages on our website, and they viewed our pricing page. The account has job postings for an accounts payable manager, which is relevant to us as an organization. And then we noticed that subcontractors love to talk about the projects that they've worked on. So we're actually using AI and Clay to scrape websites and bring in recent projects to kind of, facilitate a good conversation and give them something to talk about. So this here is huge for us. It turned our cold calls from, really kind of cold calls, SDR is really struggling to figure out what to say, and then, giving them this context really empowered them to have very meaningful conversations that ultimately ended up in a lot of meetings booked and a lot of closed revenue for the business. And then on top of that, RevenueHero booked all the meetings in these campaigns. So regardless if they get enrolled in an email sequence or if they, get booked on the phone by an SDR, we're directing them either to a RevenueHero booking page, or the SDR is just booking straight from RevenueHero. Here's an email example of the marketing-led campaign. So we still personalize with recent project, but this is kind of our catch-all campaign that goes out to kind of the masses there. And in order for us to have the best experience with our prospects, RevenueHero lets us, push all of our contact data to the URL. So all a prospect needs to do is just click a time, and the calendar invites automatically go out. They don't need to fill out a form, and A's get notified, and account ownership gets checked, and it all works perfectly and seamlessly. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody, learned something from this. But I truly believe in these workflows. I think any organization can launch them, and I hope that they're very successful for you guys.